Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help. And King of Floors, your vinyl, laminate, and engineered flooring superstore.
Just ahead of Craig Button. All of our guests today are sponsored by Skipper Auto, supporting Canadian fishing families through a revolutionary seafood buying experience. Check them out online at skipperauto.com. Back in the Paul Carson studio, it's Donnie and Dolly, the team on check, as we bring in TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Donnie. How are you?
Very, very well. We spent a lot of the first segment, as we often do, thanks to Rick, talking about Nikita Tryamkin. His agent says Big Nikita wants to come back to the NHL, back to Vancouver. What do you remember about his time with the Canucks, Craig?
Well, I mean, he was trying to get comfortable playing in the National Hockey League, the smaller rinks, the quickness of the smaller rinks. And it looked like he was making some progress. And then he went back to the KHL. And, you know, it's I understand that you have rights to Nikita Tryamkin and everything. And, you know, what I would be doing now, to be straightforward with you, Donnie and Rick, I'd be waiting on Nikita Tryamkin. I'm waiting to see if there's something better that can come along. And that, I'm not trying to sit here. You do not know what's going to bounce free, you know, from teams that might have salary cap challenges, what might become. But if you're starting to lock up players now, the opportunity arises, and now you're not going to potentially take advantage. There's no way. He's not a difference maker. There's no way. I'll wait till whatever I need to wait, but I'm not signing Nikita Tryamkin right now. No way.
Is he a top four defenseman from what you know?
No.
Because?
Because he's not. He doesn't have the skills or the attributes to play that many minutes against good players and contribute. That's why.
That's why we love having Craig on.
You know, you look at different teams and you look at Edmonton and, you know, you watch a Darnell Nurse who's big and rangy. You know, they got Broberg. What the Vancouver Canucks need is difference makers. They don't need 5 and 6 in-depth defensemen. They don't need that. They're not going to move forward, you know, unless they get those players. Leave your opportunity. There's going to be opportunities present themselves that nobody even knows about right now. But I'll tell you what, you're not going to be able to take advantage of them if you tie your hands. You just can't do it.
Love having you on, Craig. You don't beat around the bush. Patrick Marleau, we haven't talked about him yet on the show. Plays NHL career game 1768. Passes Gordie Howe for number one on the all-time list. What has allowed him to stay in the NHL so long, Craig?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, number one, I mean, you got to be able to perform. You know, the NHL is not a league where, you know, hey, oh, you're a great guy, come and play, oh, we'll keep giving you an opportunity. I thought Ray Ferraro had a great comment. He said, you know, when I played my 1,258th game, there was nobody offering me to play a 1,259th game. And, you know, Ray is still a top 100 goal scorers in the National Hockey League. It wasn't like but he was not capable of being productive any longer. So, you know, you don't reach this number unless you're durable, obviously, unless you got some really, you know, terrific skills and genetics and everything that goes with it, and a certain measure of luck. But you got to perform, and you got to perform at a reasonable level, certainly as you age, to be able to be part of a team. Because, you know, teammates, they want a player that they can count on. They want a player that can help them win. It's not just about, oh, this is great, Patrick's around. And I think that is really, really significant. And if it was easy to do, there'd be a lot more players that have done it. And, you know, for Patrick Marleau to break such a long-standing, to establish a record now that breaks a long-standing one held by Gordie Howe, I mean, it speaks to a lot of qualities and a lot of attributes that Patrick has demonstrated over his career.
Gordie's last season in the NHL, it comes back from the WHA. Plays in the 1979-80 season at the age of 52. What do you remember about him in that final season? In that final season, Craig?
I saw him score his last goal in the NHL in the Montreal
Backhander,
Forum.
yeah.
I was a 15-year-old kid, but I was there. We were lucky to have season tickets. I was there, so I can say that I saw. When I was younger, I was lucky. My dad was in management, so I got to watch Gordie Howe and Bobby Hall and Nikita and all those guys. But you did it through the lens of a kid. And you go, oh, that's cool, the NHL, and you understand a little bit. But it's the appreciation as time goes on about Gordie Howe. And, I watched him play in the IHL. He came back and played in whatever the fifth or sixth decade with the Detroit Vipers. I was there that night. And, Gordie, when you go back and you look, he stepped away from the NHL for 2 years. And that was after he was still a very good player in the NHL. And then he came back and was a top performing player in the WHA before finishing his career in the NHL. And he's unique. I mean, Gordie is unique. I don't think there'll ever be another player like Gordie Howe. But I think when you're younger, you watch him and you're kind of in awe. And then you're a little bit older, you go, wow, like 50 years old, this is pretty impressive. And it's not till you get the opportunity to really reflect and see it juxtaposed against so many other great players and go, wow, is that something? I mean, I don't have it right at the tip of my fingers, Donnie, but I think when he retired in 1971, that season, I think he was like top 10 in goals scored that year in the league, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, he had 23 goals that season.
Yeah. And, so, I mean, it wasn't like he
41.
was retiring. He was a 3-goal scorer. He was still performing at a pretty high level in the NHL.
Hey, Craig, pretty emotional game for the Canucks coming off the COVID issues, beat the Maple Leafs. Braden Holtby, great game. What were your thoughts on what happened here that night? It just a lot of good feedback in this community about how the players dug deep that evening.
Yeah, and everything they've gone through, and a lot of things that we haven't heard about is the impact it had on their families. I heard Brandon Sutter talk about his pregnant wife and his kids, and we know it had an impact, and so it was far-reaching. And considering that they were scheduled to play on Friday, and it got postponed, rightfully so. It needed to be postponed. It was absolutely the right thing to do. And then they came out and, you can look at where Toronto played and Holtby was fantastic. But, I mean, it's one of those feel-good stories, Rick. And if you don't feel good about, about what they did and emerging victorious and everything that went into that game and the joy the players had, I mean, that was a pretty special night, and I think if you're a sports fan and you understand what the players were prepared to do to get back and play, it really is special. The other thing I'll add to this is that after watching that game, and if there's anybody out here in Canada that thinks that Bo Horvat doesn't belong on Canada's Olympic team 2022, you're going to have to fight me.
Whoa. I wouldn't want to do that. I'd lose. Craig, I want to get your thoughts on this. There's a possibility the Canucks might move their farm team. They got some options. It's out there. They got a couple of weeks here to make a decision. What are some of the most important things a National Hockey League franchise, just from a Canucks perspective, Craig, what should they be looking for if they change their farm team? What would you want?
Well, number one, geographical, location, closer proximity to your parent team. I mean, you're in Utica. I mean, there's no direct flights from Utica to Vancouver. Vancouver in a normal season is going to play the vast majority of their games, in the West. So to be able to get players in and out, and also to have the proximity of your development group, their ability to get in and work with work with your young players, work with your coaching staff. Those are all incredibly important elements to have in place with your development group. And Rick, when I was in Calgary, we went through it. Our farm team was in St. John, and it was really taxing on the players. I mean, we would finish a game, and we knew we had to make a call up. So we finish a game at 9:30, 9:45 at night, Mountain Time. I mean, that's 3 hours later in the Maritimes where St. John, New Brunswick is. We phoned our Jim Playfair, Stu McDonald, who was managing the team. we need a player, and that player had to be ready to go on a 6 a.m. flight out of there. It does, like, you try to put the players in the best position and your organization in the best position to maximize all the elements of development, performance, and everything. And when you don't have that geographical proximity, the challenges become ever greater. So for me, that's got to be first and foremost, finding a really good place geographically that is close to Vancouver. It doesn't have to be, in BC. It can, Edmonton's in Bakersfield, Calgary's in Stockton. What they've done in that division of the American Hockey League has been tremendous. And I think it's really important for Vancouver to look at a setup that gives them that geographical proximity.
Craig, before we let you go, Roberto Luongo named GM of Canada's, or Team Canada, at the Worlds. At what point did he strike you as somebody who could be management material? He's working his way up.
Well, number one, I really respect Roberto, because you just put it the best way I can. He's working his way up. He wants to learn. He wants to, and Dane Dolan is very similar, who's going to work with Roberto with the management team at the World Championships. And I think that's really important. I mean, just because you played in the NHL doesn't mean you have a grasp on managing or on coaching, for that matter. And I think that Roberto totally recognizes it. I'm a huge believer, smart people know what they don't know. Roberto has always been a very intelligent person. He's been a very smart person. And this is just another example of it. But, when you listen to him talk, he's serious and he's competitive. And yet he shows a personality to not only himself but to the game that I think is really refreshing. And there's no question in my mind. I mean, when he was named captain of the Vancouver Canucks, and, people might have scoffed and whatnot, but that also speaks to leadership capability. And I know that goaltenders are not viewed as captain material, or should not be designated captain for different reasons. But I think that, that was a signal that he had significant leadership capabilities. And I think that he wants to take that into his non-playing career and in management. And, players have a choice. Am I going to coach? Am I going to go into management? And I think that Roberto, with his analytical mind and, looking at a bigger picture, I think that management works really nicely with his personality. And I don't have any question that he's got the intelligence and the drive to be very good at it.
All right, Craig, thanks so much. What's that, Rick? Oh, okay.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. This just in. We just got an update here, Craig. Canucks have signed Tryamkin, 4 years, $6 million per. So we'll get your thoughts on that. We'll get your thoughts on that next week. Craig, thanks for this.
See you guys.
Okay. TSN Scouting Director Craig Button.